Have you ever carried a weight so heavy yet invisible to the people around you? You show up every day, you're doing what is required, you are pushing through every day, yet it feels like there's a storm raging inside of you. Those are the emotions that we bury: the anger, the frustration, the fear, the bitterness. When we bury them, they feel like a storm that is raging inside of us. And what happens is that every day we are pouring our hearts. We are pouring our hearts in our work, in our careers, in our jobs, in our businesses, in our families and social life. Yet, at the end of the day, we still feel stuck, we still feel frustrated, and we still feel unfulfilled. It's like output does not match the effort that you put. And what happens, these emotions, when we bury them, they act like, it's like planting seeds and they're not growing. And so in the soil of our hearts, these things hinder the right ingredients required for our growth and for our productivity. For example, they erode our peace, they erode our joy, they erode our ability and capacity to grow, to germinate, and to be productive. And the truth is, most of us suffer this silent struggle because we ignore our emotional wellness. And we have been taught, or society has taught us, that emotions, and even religious setups, that emotions are weak, emotions are irrelevant, and emotions are at times even sin. And so what we do, we don't know how to handle them. We don't know how to manage them. We don't know what to do with them. We ignore them and brush them aside as if they're not important. Yet God, in His wisdom, created us with emotions for a reason. Emotions help us interpret different experiences. They help us interpret whether something was good or bad, whether an experience was good or bad. Emotions also help us to experience God in a deeper way. And there are many scriptures in the Bible that talk about our emotional well-being. And we have often looked at emotions as irrelevant or not important without realizing that it is because of these emotions that we have that we are able to experience God in a deeper way. So emotions are not distractions. They are there for us to act as an invitation for us to experience Him in a deeper and a better way. And so we cannot ignore them as distractions or ignore them as something that is not important. What we need to do is equip ourselves with the right skills, the right knowledge, and the right tools on how best to manage our emotions so that we are able to come to that place of calmness and stillness. And then our hearts, whatever He speaks to us, whatever He drops in our spirits, or whatever He teaches us, finds a good ground where we can thrive and be able to grow. So welcome to another episode of the Stay On It podcast as we unpack this topic on emotional wellness. So God, in His wisdom, gave us emotions to experience. He gave us emotions to have the ability to experience Him even in a deeper way. There are many scriptures. You will hear of scriptures that talk about anxiety, scriptures that talk about fear, scriptures that talk about stillness, scriptures that talk about peace and joy. All these are emotions. And God has placed His words in the Bible for us to get the cue that we need to be emotionally well so that we are able to interact with Him in a better way and become productive. I remember times when He would call His servants and He was so concerned about the wellness or the state of their emotions. And most of the times you will find them, when He calls them, they are afraid. And he would tell them, do not fear. It is I, the Lord. Okay? Do not fear. I have called you into this. Do not be afraid because I am with you. And it's like God telling us, I'm concerned. I care about your emotions. God, time and again, speaks to his children, speaks to his servants. I have come to give you peace and peace in abundance. These are all emotions. God is concerned about your emotional well-being. He's concerned about your productivity. He's concerned about your growth. And he knows that when you are emotionally well, then you'll be able to grow in greater heights. I have been meditating a lot on emotional wellness. And one of the things that God, like a statement God put in my heart, is that I am concerned about your emotional wellness. And your emotional wellness is connected to your growth. And I have been taking time to just think about it, that my emotional wellness is connected to my growth. And it is growth in all areas. When you're not well, it has impact on your physical body. When you're not well emotionally, it has impact on your spiritual growth. So you may pray all you want. You may go to the gym all you want. You may diet and, have a diet plan and all that. But if you're not taking care of the emotions, they will still have an impact on your body, and they will still have an impact on your spiritual life and in any other area of your life socially. Think about it. And so it's a high time for us to just take that opportunity and decide that I want to take responsibility of my emotional wellness. The word of God says, the righteous cry out when in trouble. And I was thinking about that crying part is an emotional expression that God, I'm in trouble, I need help. And God deliberately put it there in his word so that when we read, we know that when I'm in trouble, I can cry. And without putting a lot of these deep revelation things, just the simple fact that you can cry out to God. God wants to see that expression of your emotions. We have a high priest who understands all our weaknesses. For we do not have a high priest who does not understand. He understands it. The Bible also says that the Lord is close, and that's Psalms 34. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and to those who are crushed in spirit. The righteous person may have many troubles, but the Lord delivers him from them all. And I was thinking about it and meditating over this, and God reminded me of a season when I was not productive in what I was doing. I was struggling in something, and it seemed like I was just going in cycles after cycle, and I tried to rise up. I moved two steps ahead, 3 backward, and every time it felt like a real struggle to perform and be productive in what I wanted to do. And I remember sitting down and asking God, what is happening? And God took me back to something that happened some years back. And he told me, you never dealt with this. And so it has created anxiety in me. And every time you're faced with something that looks like danger, something that you interpret as danger, something that you interpret as trouble, something that you interpret as trouble or danger, automatically you get anxious. And because of that anxiety, you're not able to be productive. And it's like God was telling me, you need to deal with that thing. And I remember I just broke down and I was crying to God. And one of the things I was telling God, I don't even know how to fix this. I don't even know how to deal with it. And as I was praying and crying to God, I felt the love of the Father. And you see, that part of him showing me what happened and what was happening is him trying to bring me closer. Okay, him telling me I'm concerned because you're not growing, and I want to show you what is the root cause. And so him taking me back to events of the past. And you see, remember it says that he delivers us from trouble. Took me to the past, but he also knows that I have no capacity to deal with it. And therefore what he requires is me express my weakness and my lack of ability to deal with it. And that's the advantage we have as children of God. We don't have to struggle trying to fix ourselves. We don't have to struggle trying to do it by ourselves, trying to create a plan of how I will come out of this. He is well able to deliver us from every trouble. When we cry to him, he will hear us and come to our rescue. And so I remember I just broke down and I was crying. And I felt the love of the Father. I actually felt his embrace. You know how you feel like these huge arms around you? I felt his embrace. And out of that, it began a journey of healing towards that. Remember, it was not in my mind. Remember, I could not relate my productivity with the past events. But here God comes and says, this is affecting, because then it creates something. And I remember looking back months later and seeing how, as a result of the healing, there has been a lot of growth. As a result of my healing and my beginning that journey of healing, because it's also a journey, that journey has brought me to a certain fulfillment. It has brought me to a certain satisfaction and a certain calmness that I am now more able to grow. But remember, because we are human beings, we will continue experiencing many other things, that now we have a solution, that we can always go back to him. We can always tell him, God, I don't know how to deal with this struggle. And so you will find that because we bury emotions and we are not seeing the impact of that to our productivity, to our growth, to our leadership especially. And so you find that most of the time we act in emotions and not really get the chance to weigh in the options that we have. And so what we are doing here is just unpacking what is that emotional wellness. And I'm just talking about, I'm sharing that experience to show us that as children of God, or as created beings by God, who gave us the emotions for a reason, we have an advantage that we can always go back to him and tell him, fix us, and tell him, heal us, and tell him, give us wisdom in this, give us direction in this. I need you to show me, all right? That's the advantage we have. The other thing is that there's the part that we do. And that part we do is that we do not bury them. No. So you will find that when we ignore our emotional well-being, then even as leaders, it begins to affect how we are leading in teams, how we are showing up in our lives, how we are performing our works, how we are performing tasks. And it's important for us to start paying attention to our emotional well-being so that we are able to have impact in people's lives. For you to even grow at a personal level, for you to make impact in other people's lives, we have to be conscious of how we are, or the state of our emotions. Emotional intelligence is very important. Emotional awareness is very important. It is important that every day you are able to assess, or in different moments in your life, you're able to assess your emotional state. And also think about how you will show up in front of people. Think about how you will show up emotionally. Let's dive into 3 key areas in emotional wellness that transforms how we grow, how we lead, and how we our personal lives. Okay, so the first thing that you do is that you do an emotional audit. You conduct an emotional audit. And this is basically where you want to understand where you stand emotionally. How are you doing emotionally? And so you stop or pause and just reflect and ask yourself questions like, how am I doing? As Maureen, how are you doing? And at times when we are asked that question, we really, most of the times, don't tell the truth. But we must give ourselves permission, or we must allow ourselves to tell truth to ourselves that I am not doing well. I am not okay. I am frustrated here. I'm feeling angry here. So what emotional audit enables you to do is that it enables you to understand or become aware of where you are at, what are your emotions, and what's the impact of those emotions on your daily life. What's the impact of those emotions on your social life, on your family, on your job? What is the impact of your emotions? Because most times we push forward, we are trying to push forward, we are trying to do our best, we are trying to be our best selves, but we don't realize that there's something else pulling us behind, and that is the emotional baggage that we carry. And so we are trying to move ahead, but it's like our leg is tied. There's something slowly dragging us behind, and therefore hindering our progress forward. And so it's important to conduct this emotional audit. So basically how you do it is as simple as taking a moment, whether in a day, whether in a week, just take a moment, sit with yourself and reflect. First of all, ask yourself, how am I doing? And it's important for us to learn how to ask ourselves questions, because this is how you get feedback even from yourself and from others. How am I doing? All right. And after you get that response, then reflect on recent scenarios in your life that have caused you to express very strong emotions. And then analyze how those emotions have impacted your growth. How have they impacted others? How have they impacted you? Are you proud of yourself when you look at how you responded, how you reacted in that recent experience? What would be your genuine feedback from that recent experience? And then you go deeper to ask yourself, so what is the underlying issue? Because most of the times we find that we reacted, but we ignored what is the issue, because there's something behind that emotion. What is it? What is the root cause of this? The root cause of why I am feeling overwhelmed or why I'm feeling frustrated is this. Okay? And then when you're able to identify, then you even though you're still in the progress, at that point of just being aware of the situation you are in emotionally, it enables you to make better decisions. It enables you to draw a boundary that as I relate with people, as I go to make this presentation, as I interact with kids and others, I'm aware that there's something taking place inside of me, and therefore I am cautious that I am not reacting to them or projecting the emotions I'm feeling to them, but I am very careful that I am now thinking about it. I am weighing options to make the right decision in that particular situation. You basically asking, what's the impact in my decision making? What's the impact of this in my relationships, in my spiritual walk, in my physical life? What's the implication of this? So for example, let's take an example that you're frustrated at work and you're feeling overwhelmed, and it's a constant thing and you're not able to come out of it. It's important for you to just check and see what is the underlying issue. And for example, it could be the underlying issue behind you feeling overwhelmed, it's fear. Because there's a way you're trying to overwork yourself to, and maybe it could be fear of feeling inadequate, fear of failure. And so you end up overworking yourself. And in the process of overworking yourself, you begin to get overwhelmed because you're not getting enough rest. And so you begin to become overwhelmed. And so when you're called on to the task or to do something, you're feeling less confident with yourself. You criticize yourself. You are overly judging yourself. Your self-talk is full of negative words. And so you may find that at that point you're able to really dig deep to what is happening. And then again also, you're also able to identify beyond work what else has been affected, because obviously something else has been affected. You could maybe checking in your spiritual life and you're saying, I have been so distracted and so overwhelmed that I have no energy left to read the word of God or to pray, or even so distracted that when I sit with myself, the emotions are too high and I'm not able to sit still and be calm and hear God, And so you begin to analyze, how is this affecting my relationships too? Okay, I'm not able to keep up a conversation. I'm feeling drained because of this and this. And so it's important for us to just learn how to take those emotional audits, because then it enables us to become emotionally aware of ourselves. And then now we are able to make the correct decisions in every area of our lives. So just take a moment. Take a moment. I urge you to take a moment and just spend a few moments with yourself. Dig deep into the emotions that you're feeling. Replay the situations that happened recently. Forgive yourself for how you responded, reacted, but also take lessons from it. That this is what is happening, and therefore I need to deal with this so that I am okay and I'm in a better place to grow myself, to become a better version of myself, and even to grow in other areas of my life. Number 2, learn how to process your emotions. So after you have assessed your emotions and you know where you are emotionally, it's important to learn how to process your emotions. It's important to learn how not to ignore or suppress them, but for you to sit down with them, feel them, but at the same time, you're able to say, or you're able to come to a place where you're weighing your options on how to respond to the situation. So this, what we're saying is that you're not brushing aside your emotions. No, you're processing them. You're saying, I am angry because of this and this and this, and I'm not happy, and this is not okay. Your emotions, then, they are given room to be felt. But at the same time, you're asking yourself questions like, what's the best outcome out of this situation? What do I want to achieve from this situation? This is what I'm feeling, okay? But what's the best outcome in light of the bigger picture? So you have to always think about the bigger picture. That is you and the welfare of others. And so learning how to sit with our emotions helps us. It helps us to process what we are feeling. It helps us not to ignore, not to suppress it, because if we suppress it in one way or the other, it will still come out, and it will come out in a bad way. But we are able to just sit there, feel it, sit with the discomfort. It's not comfortable at times to feel annoyed. It's not comfortable at times to sit there and you're feeling the bitterness. But it's also knowing that this emotion is not there to dictate my life or dictate my decisions. It is acting as a signal, all right? Because how else would you know that a situation is not good for you? How else would you know, right? How else would you know that you're not comfortable with a situation? It is through our emotions. And so the emotions act as signals They are not dictating to us how to respond. And so we just sit with them, feel it, but at the same time, we are asking ourselves questions. How do I respond to this? What response will be the best in regard to the whole picture? So take an example of a leader and a team member has disrespected them. Of course, they'll be annoyed, they'll be angry, and they will want to punish them, prove a point, just show the other team members that I am the one in charge. But instead of responding in anger, this person in that instant has learned how to process their emotions. And they're able to say, I am angry at her. I am angry because I did not like this and this and this. But I don't have to respond or act in my emotions. What's the best response in regard to the entire team? What's the best response in regard even to this person and to myself? And so at that moment, they can decide, instead of lashing out, instead of punishing them, instead of talking badly to them, let me process my emotions. And then let me respond in a way that brings the team closer to me and also teaches the other members the importance of respecting leadership and respecting one another. And at the end of the day, what that leader has done, they have been able to preserve their leadership and preserve their integrity as leaders. And that in turn replicates to the team members, trusting them even more. And so it's important for us to learn so that we don't go out there reacting, overreacting, and underreacting in situations where we could have handled our emotions in a better way. So let's learn how to manage our emotions. Let's learn how to process our emotions. And out of that, what lessons do we learn? And it will inform us, because all emotions are not bad, by the way. It's not always that you will have bad emotions. At times, the lessons we learn. There's a scripture that talks about treat others as you don't want them to treat you. So you can imagine this leader, for example, we are talking about, they have felt very angry and maybe hurt by how the team member disrespected them. And so when they are able to process and manage it very well, then they pick a lesson that how I have felt, I wouldn't want anybody else doing that to me. And so I will not do that to anybody else. And that's what the scripture says, do unto others as you would want them to do to you. And so it basically gives us or allows us to process, as we process the emotions, we're also processing the lessons, and these lessons we carry with them to the next relationship. And so you find that when you begin to process your emotions, you become better in relationships, you become better in your social life. You are able to relate and interact with people, even in tough situations, in highly intense, emotionally intense situations. You're able to handle it very well because you have been doing it. You have had the practice of doing it on yourself. And so when you are required to do it, you're able to manage it very well. So the third thing is about surrender to God. Surrender your emotions to God and seek healing. And the reason why I'm saying surrender your emotions is that it's the most effective way of getting your healing. God is more than able and willing to handle whatever it is that we are going through. And the most important thing that we can do is just bring our emotions to Him and allow Him into the picture. And then He's able to give us comfort that we require. He's able to give us the peace that we require. He's able to give us direction. At times He will direct you, go talk to so and so, go get a session here, talk to so and so, because He knows what's best for you. He knows what you're going through. And maybe He has been preparing somebody else. It could be a therapist, it could be a senior person, it could be a spiritual leader. He has been preparing them for you. God knows what you need. At times the healing will be right there. Okay. Other times it will require you to walk with somebody. Whatever direction God gives you, embrace it. So the best thing about surrender is that if we do not surrender and we ignore how we are feeling, we ignore our emotional wellness, and we will find our hearts will be hardened. That's how we harden our hearts. We become, hurting people hurt others, okay? And at times they don't even know they're hurting others. But because they're hurting inside, that thing bleeds onto the other relationships that they have. And so you'll find that people will suffer hurt from you because you're not taking care of your wellness. You're putting people through stuff because you're not putting yourself through a system of healing. But when we come to God, we get joy, we get peace, we get the healing that we require for us to be able to progress and bring impact in the lives of other people that God has placed in our lives. So when it comes to your emotions or your emotional well-being, take it to God in prayer. Just surrender it. Allow Him to just come and bring healing. He understands. He understands your weaknesses. He understands your heart better. And the moment we learn how to go to our Father for healing, then we will be able to be more productive and be able to even walk, trusting more and walk in obedience. So at times, our output is dependent on how we are relating with God. Because remember, if you open your heart to Him and allow Him to deal with whatever bitterness, whatever rage, whatever it is in our hearts, He draws us closer to Himself. And as He draws us closer to Himself, He's able to pour more of Himself to us. And then we are able to become more of what He has called us to be. So in moments of emotional heaviness, in moments of brokenness, He says that He heals the broken heart and the crushed in spirit. So don't be afraid to vent your emotions to God, and then listen to what He directs you to do. He can direct you to take a session with a therapist. He can direct you to work with somebody who is older or somebody who has been in a similar situation, just because He cares about you. And so in that moment of surrender, He can tell you anything. He can direct you to somebody. He can decide to take you through a process of healing. However He decides to do it, it's important for us to just come to Him and learn to just pour our hearts out to Him and allow Him to take charge. As we wrap up today's conversation, I want you to know that your emotions are not your enemies. They are part of how God created and designed you to help you experience life fully, to help you connect with Him deeply, and also to help you grow in ways that you never thought possible. And so emotions are not our enemies. And when we ignore them, it doesn't mean that we are strong. Ignoring our emotion doesn't make us stronger. Instead, it delays our process of healing and our progress. So take time to do that emotional audit so that you know where you are at. Again, also, process your emotions with wisdom and understanding. Above all, surrender your emotions to God. It's time to find that freedom. As always, stay on it, stay brave, and stay intentional about your emotional wellness.